Hi everyone, my name is Emma Sylvester. Welcome back to Total Pilates Online. This is where our pelvic tilt can start to get a little bit more technical. So you've already practiced with your lying, your sitting, your wall, but now let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit more. Head positioning, you might use a head block or a pillar. Biofeedback, we might not know what this is yet. And also breath control. So talking of breath control, while you're in a sitting position, just make sure you're nice and comfy. That could be on a chair, could be sitting, easy pose, and really have a little think, how do you breathe? That might sound a bit of a random question, mightn't it? How do you breathe? Are you inhaling in through the chest, in through the nose, and in through the tummy? Where are we breathing? So when we inhale through the nose, quite often, a lot of adults especially, will inhale and do this. And their chest will lift. And that is through the strain and stresses of life, guys. We have somehow, as humans, taught ourselves how to breathe incorrectly. If you watch a baby sleep, you have the opportunity to see a baby sleep, they don't breathe in through their chest. They breathe in through their tummy. And you will always see the tummy rising and falling with a baby because they are breathing correctly. So with Pilates, we have to teach ourselves to breathe down here. Okay, so not up here, down here. We'll talk a lot about ribcage. We'll talk a lot about the belly button, the navel. So when you're inhaling in through the nose, make sure you are expanding the ribcage. We're breathing in down here, guys. And when we breathe out, we are slowly starting to pull the navel in towards the spine. Might sound easy. Quick test for you all. If you place your hand on the top of the ribcage there, and you place your middle fingers together, so middle fingers touching, you're going to inhale through the nose, and as you inhale, you should notice the middle fingers part. And then when we exhale, the middle fingers touch or overlap. So again, inhale, fingers part, and then we exhale, fingers become closer together. So we are expanding and we are tightening those core muscles, those deep core stability muscles that are not just here, they are all the way around. They are our corset belt for our back and our stomach muscles. So first of all, when we do a pelvic tilt, that is where we want to be breathing. The next thing you can do at home to try, not got one with me at the moment, but straw. Just grab a straw, pause this video, grab a straw and just inhale through the nose. And then I just want you to simply blow out through the straw. And you'll find that your tummy muscles will work. Some like to use a balloon. Balloon's quite hard. In fact, you might get a bit of a headache trying to blow the balloon up on every breath out. But I quite like the straw breath. So you're just using a straw, just breathing out. And imagine we're sort of blowing out more. A lot of people don't breathe correctly in Pilates. And there will be a follow-up video on breathing itself. But give it a go, see how you get on. The next thing is do I need a head block or a pillar? So in this instance, there's lots of different sorts you can get. This is a little bit more of a yoga block. What I like to use though are these ones, okay? Just you might not recognize that one. These are a lot better for Pilates. You can also get the soft cushions as well for Pilates. So once you've come down, head position is so important because when we talk about head positioning, we're going to imagine we've got a piece of fruit tucked underneath the chin. That could be a small apple or an orange or a tennis ball, whatever you want to imagine, just tucked underneath that chin. So if you're lying in a neutral position now and you've got your piece of fruit and you've got your head block, perfect. If you're like this and your chin is touching your chest, then that can probably indicate actually you don't need your head block. Get rid of it. We don't want to be squashing that chin down. Or it might be you've not got your head block and you're like this all the time. Quite common with people with big structured bodies, shoulders, mainly males. You will probably find you do need something underneath the head to lift you. Once you've got that position, this is when we work on the pelvic tilt. So the legs are going to be bent. Your legs will be hip width apart with the feet underneath the knees. Shoulders nice and relaxed. Inhale, in through the nose, in through that rib cage. And then we exhale to compress the back down. And perhaps you don't know if you're doing that correctly or not. So place your hands, upper rib cage, middle fingers touching. Inhale through the nose. Expand through your rib cage as your middle fingers part. And then exhale. Compress navel to spine, fingertips touch or fingertips overlap. All depends on how good your pelvic tilt is. So just keeping that going as that little bit of a test is really good. The other thing you might do is place a hand underneath the center of the back. And when we exhale, we compress down the fingertips, tightening up on those core muscles. But again, you might think, well, okay, I'm pressing down against my fingers. How strong is my core? How hard am I working? And that's really when it comes down to biofeedback. Now, you don't have to run out and buy one of these, but I will share the link below. So if you do want to have a look at getting one, then you can. But the biofeedback machine looks a little bit like a blood pressure monitor. Sometimes you'll notice there you've got your little dialogue here. And basically, depending on how much pressure you press into this underneath your spine, this will indicate on this little dialogue how strong you are, but not just that, how well you control this. So when we work on other exercises, such as a one-legged dip, perhaps, does your level drop on this when the leg comes down to the ground? Perhaps it does. So it just gives you that little bit of an idea of, am I doing my pelvic tilt correctly? And am I even doing one at all? So you could get one. If you do, all you would have to do with this is place it underneath the center or the curve, natural curve of your back, which might not necessarily be center. Don't have it right down up the bum because your powerhouse is going to squish it anyway and loads of air will come out. Then once you've got it in that area, take a little bit of air out. So you can do that just by turning that little nozzle. And they will come with an instruction pack anyway, which will just let that little bit of air out until you get to your own natural curve. Once you've found that natural curve, you can then have a little look and you're going to inhale in through the nose, laterally through the rib cage area, and then we're going to breathe out and we're going to start to compress down. And as we compress down there, I can see I've moved a good 20 on there, and then we relax down. So you want to try and get to that same marker every time on every pelvic tilt if you can. And when I was talking about leg raises, don't worry too much about that today, but say we were doing the leg dip here, you'll come down. You want to keep that level on the same number. We don't want it to drop. So it's a really good idea to perhaps start to practice, get the pelvic tilt working, and then when we progress on, we can come into a little bit more detail with that biofeedback machine. So for now, they are your three main points for pelvic tilts: breath control, head and neck positioning, and pelvic tilt control with or without biofeedback. All right, thanks guys.